I was 42 when the fog started rolling in. Not the kind you see outside your window or hanging low on a back road in October. I mean the kind that settles in your life, in your marriage, in your gut. The kind that shows up without a forecast and doesn't leave no matter how many times you wave it away. My name's Roy Granger. Raised in Indiana, now living in the quieter parts of Missouri, the part with strip malls and split levels, not the farmhouses or the bougie vineyards. I manage logistics at a regional distribution center, what most people picture when they think middle management. I get up at 5:30, drink a burnt-tasting coffee out of a chipped white mug that says, "World's okayest dad," and clock in by 7. Theresa, my wife, is one of those people who always looks like she's in the middle of doing something more important than you. She works in development at a mid-sized nonprofit downtown. Grants, funding, events, stuff like that. She knows the difference between a Cabernet and a Pinot. Me? I know Bud Light has twist-offs and Bud Heavy doesn't. That's about where we split. We met the usual way, through friends, at a backyard thing with too much potato salad and some guy trying to make everyone play cornhole. She was wearing one of those rompers that looks like a dress if you squint, and I remember thinking she was out of my league. She wasn't trying too hard. She never does. And that's the thing about Theresa. She just kind of arrives in a room. Doesn't need to say much. The first 2 years were the good ones. I'm talking lazy Sundays with diner breakfasts, whispered arguments about what to watch on Netflix, and falling asleep during thunderstorms with our feet tangled. We got married in a courthouse with her sister as witness and celebrated with pulled pork sandwiches and Coors Light on the back porch. We were low maintenance. Or at least I thought we were. But then something shifted, like a dropped transmission. It didn't happen all at once, no big fight or dramatic moment. It was slower, like a song fading out. Our conversation shrank down to logistics, groceries, car inspections. Did you take the trash out? Her laugh, the real one that came from deep in her belly, started showing up less. Her phone wasn't glued to her hand, but she always had it near, face down. I noticed, sure. But I didn't say anything. That's marriage, right? You don't bark over every scratch in the paint. We didn't have kids. Not by choice, just never happened. There were a few tough years where we tried, and then some quiet years where we didn't. We stopped talking about it somewhere along the way, like it had become one of those untouchable things. I think that silence wrapped itself around a lot more than just that. By year 7, we'd become roommates with rings. She started staying later at work. Board meetings, grant deadlines, debrief sessions. Always something. And I wanted to believe her. God, I wanted to believe her. I still made her coffee in the morning. Still fixed the fence when it sagged. Still asked how her day went, even though most nights I got a shrug and fine. And every once in a while, she'd smile and lean her head on my shoulder while we watched reruns of Parks and Rec, and I'd think, see, we're fine. Just a rough patch. But patches don't last 4 years. I remember the exact moment I realized I wasn't imagining things. It was a Tuesday. The kind that doesn't try to be anything special. I was at my buddy Chase's garage, watching him replace brake pads while we sipped Miller High Life from plastic Solo cups. Chase is the kind of guy who doesn't waste time on small talk. After about 20 minutes of me dancing around the topic of how off things felt at home, he says, deadpan, "Roy, you're not paranoid. You're just late to the party." I didn't like hearing that, but I needed to. I didn't go full Sherlock Holmes. I didn't install cameras or rifle through drawers. No GPS tracker under her car. I still had some dignity, but I started paying attention. Not obsessively, just noticing. The way she started dressing a little sharper for work, like suddenly caring sharp. The way her phone buzzed during dinner and she'd swipe it away like a mosquito but never flipped it over. The way her answers started getting efficient, quick, polished. I knew the signs. You don't spend 10 years with someone and not learn their rhythms. You can tell when someone's dancing to music you can't hear. But I didn't confront her. Not yet. See, there's this weird purgatory you live in once you think something's happening but can't prove it. You don't want to be the guy who throws a fit over nothing. But you also don't want to be the sucker whose wife's got a whole second life across town. So you just live in limbo. You eat your cereal. You kiss her goodbye. You take the trash out. But every little thing starts to feel like a test you're failing without knowing the rules. The real punch to the ribs? I still loved her. Not the same way I did at the start, no. But in that weary, loyal, we've been through too much to quit way. That stubborn brand of love that doesn't let go just because things get murky. Then came that Saturday morning. She was heading out to volunteer at an outreach event, a thing she'd mentioned offhand at dinner 2 nights before. She was dressed business casual, clipboard in hand, coffee thermos under her arm, her hair done just enough to make it look like she wasn't trying. I remember watching her back out of the driveway and thinking, you don't even flinch anymore when you lie to me, do you? And still, I didn't follow her. I didn't call her bluff. I just stood there in my sweatpants, holding a wrench, with my other hand gripping the car hood like it was the only thing keeping me upright. That was the moment the fog turned into something else. Not just doubt, not just sadness, but resolve. A slow-burning kind of clarity. The kind you don't rush. The kind that gathers strength like a storm. See, here's the thing about guys like me. We don't make big speeches. We don't smash dishes or scream into pillows. We bide our time. We pay attention. And when the time is right, we act. Not to scream or cry, but to make it count. So if Theresa was lying to me, and let's be real, it wasn't going to end with me whimpering in the kitchen or begging her to work on things. No, sir. I was going to find out exactly what was going on. Not by digging through her phone or tailing her with binoculars. I'd find another way. Something she wouldn't see coming. Because if I've learned anything in my 42 years of quiet Midwestern living, it's this. When you play it straight your whole life, people assume you're not watching. But I was watching. And I was done pretending not to see. You want to know what happened next? Keep listening. Theresa always left the house in a rush, like she was trying to outpace a crime scene. I'd watch her from the front porch, sipping coffee, her tires crunching over the gravel like they couldn't get away fast enough. She had a way of not looking back. Even when she'd forget her lunch or her phone, it was like re-entering the house was an inconvenience. I used to think she was just busy. Now I knew better. Still, I wasn't ready to make a scene. I wasn't about to accuse her based on a feeling. She'd outmaneuver that in a heartbeat. Theresa's smart, real sharp, in that casual, smiling way that makes people underestimate her. She could spin a story smoother than silk, and if I confronted her without proof, she'd twist the whole thing into a guilt trip and leave me wondering if I'd imagined it all. No, I needed solid ground. It started with the printer. Yeah, the dumb old HP in our shared office nook. The thing was about as reliable as a politician's promises. Normally, I wouldn't touch it unless taxes were due or we needed boarding passes, but that Wednesday I needed to print a receipt for some garage tool I was returning. The screen blinked with a low toner warning like it always did, but it spat out the page just fine. Then it kept spitting. 2 more pages slid out, slowly, like the printer was trying to make a point. Curious, I picked them up. They weren't mine. The first page was a confirmation email. Not from Amazon or Delta or anywhere we normally shopped. It was from a company called Red River Training Group, the kind of place that hosts leadership retreats for nonprofits looking to blow money on buzzwords and box lunches. It had Theresa's name. Registration confirmed. 2-day off-site training. Someplace called the Allendale Civic Center. 10 miles west. A Friday and Saturday. Meals included. Lodging, optional. She never mentioned it. Not once. That's the thing about Theresa. She always tells you the things she wants you to hear. And she makes them sound casual. Oh, yeah, I've got that board luncheon Friday. Or there's some grant writing seminar next week. Probably boring. Never a big deal. But this? This wasn't a boring Tuesday lunch. This was a 2-day retreat with an option to stay overnight. And then I looked at the second page. A map. Directions printed out. Who prints directions anymore? At first glance, nothing jumped out. Just your standard Google Maps layout. But then I saw it. Someone had handwritten on the bottom corner in neat blue ink. Follow sign for maintenance lot. North side entrance. Code 1437. Not her handwriting. Theresa writes like a teacher, wide, clean, with little hearts over the eyes when she's feeling chipper. This was tighter. Almost architect style. Something told me this wasn't some innocent staff retreat. I slid the papers back into the printer tray where I'd found them. Didn't say a word. Didn't ask. Just waited. Friday came. She wore jeans tight but casual professional. New boots. Hair up in that low ponytail she saves for things she pretends not to care about. She kissed me on the cheek like she was clocking in. Don't wait up, she said with a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. I didn't. She pulled out of the driveway at 7:11 a.m. I gave her a 10-minute head start, then got in my truck and headed east, not west. I wasn't following her. I was going around. See, she expected suspicion to look like a tail. What she didn't expect was me arriving before her. The Allendale Civic Center sits behind a high school and next to a defunct skate rink. It's the kind of building that used to be a church, then a gym, then something else. The signage was half faded. Nothing about it screamed, retreat. There were a few cars in the lot, maybe 10. I parked 2 blocks over, walked through an empty alley behind a bait shop, and came in through the back entrance. The maintenance lot. Just like the note said. Code 1437. It worked. Inside was quiet, like the place had been half forgotten. No signage, no registration desk. Just an empty hallway and the low hum of bad fluorescent lighting. I stayed close to the wall, ears open. Voices floated down from somewhere, low, murmuring, too far to make out. Then I saw it. A poster taped lazily to a door. Red River, Development Leaders Cohort. Bingo. I moved past it. Around the corner. Past another hallway. And there, past a glass window, was the real jackpot. It wasn't a workshop. It was a classroom-style room. Yes. Chairs in rows, projector up front. But there were only 6 people. Theresa among them. And here's the kicker. She wasn't looking at the whiteboard. She was looking at the man 2 rows in front of her. Mid-40s. Khakis. Polished look, like he irons his socks. He said something and she laughed, that laugh, the one I hadn't heard in months. And then, God help me, I saw it. Her hand slid across her notepad and tapped the back of his chair. Just a little flick. A signal. He turned, grinned, and mouthed something. I didn't need audio. I knew that look. I backed away. Now, I could have stormed in. I could have walked right up and asked how the retreat was going. But that's not how you win. That's how you make yourself look like the crazy one. I wanted proof. Ironclad. I wasn't going to walk away from 14 years of marriage based on a hunch and a smirk. I snapped a photo. 2, actually. One of the code on the door. One of her sitting next to her mystery man, both of them leaning in closer than any 2 coworkers should. I tucked my phone away and left the way I came in. The next few hours? Torture. I went to a nearby diner. Ordered eggs I didn't eat. Stared out the window at a parking lot full of broken lines and crooked sedans. My heart felt like it was wrapped in barbed wire, but my head was locked in. That night, she came home with a reusable water bottle, a branded tote, and a yawn. Long day, she said. You wouldn't believe the icebreaker we had to do. I bet. Get anything out of it? I asked, feigning interest. Not really. Just a lot of networking. Some guy tried to pitch a collaborative grant idea. Typical. I nodded. Was he cute? I added, casually. She blinked. What? You said some guy. Just curious if he was cute. She laughed. Nervously. Roy, are you serious? Just making conversation. She shook her head. You're weird. I smiled. Always have been. And that was it. No confrontation. No yelling. But inside, the gears were turning. Because now I had a name. The tote bag she brought back said, Red River Dev. Cohort. Session 2. And in the bottom corner, in tiny print, was a roster. I zoomed in on the photo later. There it was. Darren Kelman. Program lead. I looked him up. LinkedIn, staff page, some award from a regional planning group. He wasn't her coworker. He wasn't even in her department. He was a guest speaker brought in for strategic partnership coaching. And apparently for extracurricular activity. The next day, I did something I hadn't done in years. I showed up at her work. I didn't go inside. I sat in the parking lot and waited. When she came out at 5:37 p.m., she wasn't alone. There he was, Darren Kelman, smug as a catalog model. Shirt sleeves rolled, sunglasses on. They didn't touch. Not yet. But they lingered. Too long. Then they got in separate cars and left in opposite directions. That's when I knew. It was real. She wasn't just cheating. She was careful about it. Which meant she wasn't planning to stop. And I wasn't planning to let it slide. You ever feel a light switch flip in your soul? That was mine. Because I wasn't going to just catch her. I was going to make sure she regretted it. Stay tuned. It's a funny thing, knowing something for sure and still feeling like it's not real until you say it out loud. That's where I was. Sitting with the truth like it was some loaded gun in my lap, and I couldn't decide if I wanted to fire it or just stare at it until it went cold. I didn't go off the rails. I didn't toss clothes in the yard or smash her coffee mugs. That's the stuff you see in movies, and those guys always look like idiots by the end. Nah, I kept it neat, clean, like the slow turn of a wrench. Controlled pressure. I knew her schedule. Every Tuesday, Theresa got home later than usual. Board commitments, she said. Sounded legit. Her nonprofit has more subcommittees than the Senate. That Tuesday, though, I made sure to get home early, clean the kitchen, light a candle. Not because I'm romantic, because I wanted to see her reaction when she walked into something that looked too perfect. She came in at 7:43. Smelled like eucalyptus. Not her usual scent. Her coat was half-buttoned, hair a little windblown, cheeks flushed like she'd been laughing hard not long ago. She paused when she saw the table. I had dinner laid out. Nothing fancy, just burgers and those oven fries she likes. Wow, she said, dropping her bag on the stool. This is unexpected. Yeah, I said, handing her a beer. Figured I'd shake things up. She sipped it, I scanning the room like she was trying to figure out what she'd missed. That's the thing about people with secrets. They start thinking everything's a trap. How was the board thing? I asked, casual. She blinked. Boring, as usual. Budget stuff. Huh. I cut into my burger and didn't look up. The silence sat between us like a third person. You okay? She asked. Me? Yeah. Just tired. We ate in near silence. She fiddled with her phone under the table more than usual. Probably texting Darren. Probably telling him dinner was awkward and she might not stay long. After we cleaned up, she made the move to head upstairs. Hey, I said, stopping her mid-step. You mind if we talk for a second? Her body stiffened, just barely, but I caught it. Sure, she said, turning slowly. What's up? I motioned to the couch. She sat on one end, I sat on the other, the way strangers do in waiting rooms. I've been thinking about us, I started. About how off things have felt. She tucked her leg under her. Things are fine, Roy. Are they? Yes. Her voice had that fake calm. The kind therapists probably get all the time. I nodded. Okay. Then tell me something. She tilted her head. Who's Darren Kelman? There it was. The crack. A flicker in her eyes. The kind of micro-expression that only lasts half a second but tells you more than a polygraph. She recovered fast. Who? Darren. Kelman. Works with that Red River group you were with last weekend. Her lips parted, then shut. I kept going. He's the one who wrote that code on the map. The one you printed and left in the tray. You remember that, right? Her throat moved like she was swallowing glass. He's a speaker. At the retreat. Right. A speaker. Who stands close enough to whisper during breakout sessions. Who walks you to your car. Who makes you laugh like I haven't in 6 months. Roy, she said, quiet. I saw you, Theresa. Now her whole face shifted. The kind of panic that doesn't scream, it just settles, heavy and sharp. I didn't follow you, I added. I was already there. Saw the room. The two of you. The little hand tap on his chair. Real subtle. She opened her mouth, but nothing came out. I stood up, walked to the counter, picked up the printed pages I'd stashed in a drawer, held them out to her like test results. She didn't take them. So here's what I want to know, I said. Was it just him? Still silent. Or are there more? Am I just the idiot in the audience while you're starring in a drama I didn't audition for? She finally found her voice. Roy, please, it's not like that. No? Enlighten me. He was just easy to talk to. You've been so distant. And I didn't mean for anything to happen. It's not even serious. Oh, I said, dry as dust. So you're just casually sneaking around with a guy from a nonprofit retreat? That's better. You don't understand. Try me. She sighed, and I swear I saw the gears in her head shifting into spin mode. I felt alone, she said. For a long time. We haven't been connecting. And Darren, he's just been supportive. He listens. He doesn't make me feel like I'm boring. I stared at her. And cheating on me fixes that? I didn't cheat. I laughed. Sharp and bitter. Theresa, I watched you flirt with him like a high school senior at prom. I saw the code. I saw the looks. I saw the lie walk into my house wearing boots I paid for. She stood up, like she was going to make a point. But she didn't. She just stood there, frozen. I'm not yelling, I said. You notice that? I'm not throwing things. I'm not calling you names. I'm just done pretending I don't see what's right in front of me. It wasn't supposed to go this far, she muttered. But it did. She folded her arms. So what now? That was the question, wasn't it? I'm not moving out, I said flatly. And I'm not filing anything. Yet. She blinked. What do you mean? I mean, I'm not making this easy. You want him? You leave. You pack your bags and you go stay at his place, or whatever hotel you two usually use. But I'm not going to be the guy who just rolls over. I didn't say I was leaving. No, I said, nodding. But you will. Because I'm not going to play your background character anymore. She didn't say anything. I'm going to bed, I said, heading upstairs. You can stay down here. Or not. Doesn't matter to me. That night, I laid in our bed alone. She didn't come up. She didn't apologize. She didn't explain. She just sat in silence. The next morning, she left early. No note. No explanation. But here's the thing. That was the last day she got to call the shots. Because I wasn't broken. I was preparing. She wanted to cheat quiet? Fine. But I was going to respond loud. No yelling. No chaos. Just a very specific kind of revenge. Smart. Precise. And public. She thought I was the quiet type? She forgot one thing. Quiet doesn't mean weak. It means patient. And Theresa was about to learn just how dangerous patient could be. Wait until you see what comes next. I didn't sleep much after that night. I wasn't tossing and turning or crying into a pillow. That's not me. I just laid there with my hands folded over my chest like a guy waiting for surgery, staring up at the ceiling fan, letting the silence do its work. Because here's the truth. Once you know someone's been lying to your face, you stop hearing what they say and start watching what they do. And I was watching Theresa real close now. She thought she'd played it safe. No lipstick on collars. No midnight phone calls. No crumpled receipts in the laundry. But what she forgot, what cheaters always forget, is that it's not the big screw-ups that expose them. It's the boring stuff. It's the routines. The shared calendar. The dry cleaning tags. The Facebook memory from 8 years ago that suddenly vanishes from your timeline. Cheating isn't exciting. It's sloppy. And I don't do sloppy. First thing I did? I got organized. I started a spreadsheet. Not a crazy one. Just dates, times, locations. I cross-referenced her work events with the Red River emails I still had copies of, with a little help from that dusty old HP printer. I even flagged the night she claimed she was too tired to hang out or had some made-up nonprofit mixer that, surprise, surprise, didn't show up anywhere on their site. Turns out Darren Kellman was in town a lot more than he should have been for someone based 3 hours south. Theresa still hadn't said anything since our conversation. She was going about her life like she hadn't been caught red-handed. That was fine by me. I didn't need an apology. I needed a stage. The idea came to me during a staff lunch at work. One of the warehouse techs, Gus, was griping about his cousin's baby shower being live-streamed on Facebook. I had to watch this grown woman open bibs on camera for 90 minutes, he said, chewing through a sandwich like it owed him money. And just like that, it clicked. Theresa's nonprofit loved to live-stream everything. Brand announcements, donor thank yous, panel discussions. It was their whole thing, transparency, community engagement, all that PR fluff. And every year, they hosted a big donor appreciation event in the spring. Speeches, networking, wine, and one of those cheesy awards they give out to people who volunteer twice and donate once. Guess who was this year's MC? You bet. Theresa. And guess who was slated to receive the Community Collaboration Partner Award? Darren Kellman. You see where this is going? I didn't need to scream. I didn't need to throw hands. I just needed an audience. So I got to work. First, I called in a favor from my cousin Tim. Tim works freelance in AV and knows his way around event tech. I asked him a hypothetical question. If someone wanted to hijack a live stream just long enough to swap in a short video clip, nothing too crazy, what would it take? He laughed, assumed I was planning a prank, and said, honestly, a thumb drive and 3 seconds of access to the laptop running the feed. That was it. 3 seconds. I already knew what laptop it would be. It belonged to a guy named Jalen, Theresa's junior associate, who had once spent a full hour explaining to me why HDMI was overrated. He was harmless, sloppy with passwords, always stepping outside for vape breaks. I reached out to Jalen the week before the event with a fake Gmail address posing as a local reporter doing a puff piece on the nonprofit. Can I swing by and get some B-roll of the prep work? I asked. Just quiet background stuff. He replied within the hour, sure thing. Just ask for me at the front desk. Too easy. The day of the event, I dressed for the part. Slacks, button up, press badge I printed off Canva. I walked in around 2:45 p.m., just as they were running tech checks. Smiled at the receptionist. Walked past the interns setting up cheese trays. Found Jalen hunched over the laptop in the media booth, adjusting frame rates like he was defusing a bomb. I acted casual. Filmed a few pans of the banner wall. Then I waited until Jalen went outside for a vape. Which he did. Right on cue. And in the 30 seconds he was gone, I slipped the thumb drive into the port, selected the auto cue setting, and loaded a 3-minute video. Just enough. Then I left. Didn't wait for the show to start. Didn't want to risk Theresa seeing me in the crowd and putting it together too soon. I went home, popped a beer, and waited for the live stream to go public on their YouTube channel. It started off exactly like I knew it would. Theresa stood at the podium, smiling that polished nonprofit smile. "We are so thrilled to welcome you to this year's Building Bridges Awards Gala," she said, voice like butter on toast. "Tonight, we celebrate the people and partnerships that make our work possible." She moved to the script, thanking the board, the donors, the interns. Then she started the intro for Darren. "Our next honoree is someone who's gone above and beyond to help us expand our regional presence." Cue the applause. He strutted up with that smug little nod, shaking hands with the board chair, doing his fake humble routine. And just as she said, "We'd like to show you a short video highlighting Darren's incredible contributions." Boom. My video started. 3 minutes. No sound. Just text. Simple white letters on a black screen. One phrase at a time, timed perfectly to a slow, eerie piano track. Some partnerships aren't built on trust. Some collaborations go beyond the professional. Meet Darren Kelman, strategic partner, guest speaker, and lover to the married MC standing beside him. The audience rustled. You could see it on their faces. Confused at first. Then jaws started dropping. Next came a sequence of screenshots. No nudity. Nothing obscene. Just the facts. The Red River event itinerary with Theresa's name. The code note in someone else's handwriting. A still frame from the Civic Center side entrance footage. Yeah, I got a friend at Parks and Rec. Don't ask. A cropped shot of Theresa and Darren seated too close, smiling too wide. Then, marriage is a vow, not a networking opportunity. It ended with a black screen. Simple message. This partnership ends now. And then, just like that, the stream cut back to the podium. Theresa was frozen, mouth parted like a gasping fish. Darren took half a step back. Someone in the crowd stood up. Another dropped their wine glass. You couldn't script a better live meltdown if you tried. Within an hour, the nonprofit had scrubbed the video. But not fast enough. A few savvy attendees had already ripped it. Reddit got it. Then Twitter. Then Facebook. The damage was done. Theresa didn't come home that night. Didn't come home the next one either. She finally texted 3 days later, "We need to talk." "No, Theresa. You need to talk. I need closure. But don't worry. That conversation's coming." And so is the end of this little performance. Because my revenge? It wasn't about breaking her. It was about reminding her. You thought you were writing the story? I was just waiting to flip the final page. Stay tuned. She showed up at the house like she hadn't just detonated her reputation 3 nights earlier. Same key, same tired knock, same perfume that used to mean something. She stood in the doorway like she was waiting for me to either hug her or punch a wall. I did neither. "Roy," she said softly, voice flat, like she was reading the weather report. "Can we talk?" I looked at her a second longer than necessary and walked back into the kitchen without saying a word. Left the door open behind me. She took that as permission. She shouldn't have. She stepped in slow, her heels clicking on the hardwood like it was the first time she'd ever been here. She looked around like a stranger, pausing when she saw the photos still hanging above the mantel, us in Maine 5 years ago, her in that big scarf she pretended not to like but wore every damn weekend that trip. I hadn't taken it down. Not yet. Not because I couldn't. Because I wanted her to see it. She followed me into the kitchen. I was stirring instant coffee into hot water, even though the machine sat right there on the counter. Sometimes you just want it bitter and cheap. Felt right. "You're not going to say anything?" she asked. "Oh, I've said plenty," I replied. "Just didn't use my mouth." She flinched. "Good." She sat at the island and folded her hands on the counter like she was waiting for a judge to enter the room. "You embarrassed me," she said. I laughed. Out loud. "I embarrassed you?" I said. "Is that really how you're starting this?" "You planned it," she said, her voice rising. "That video of Roy, Jesus, that was cruel." I took a sip of coffee. Burned my tongue. Didn't care. "Theresa, what's cruel is lying to someone for God knows how long, making them feel crazy, pretending nothing's wrong, and then clapping hands with your little affair partner while you give him an award in front of a crowd. That's cruel. What I did. That was called evening the scoreboard." She looked down. Silence stretched. Then, "It wasn't serious." I set the mug down a little harder than necessary. "Don't." "I mean it," she said. "It wasn't some grand romance. Darren and I, we weren't planning a future. It was stupid, and I knew it was stupid, but it gave me something I felt like I'd lost. And what was that? She hesitated. Attention. Excitement. I don't know. Something that reminded me I was still desirable. And you didn't think to, I don't know, bring that up before jumping into bed with someone else? She sighed, looked tired. I didn't think you'd listen. I stared at her. I wouldn't listen. To my wife telling me she needed something more? She nodded slowly, eyes glassy. You used to, Roy. You used to look at me like I mattered. Lately, it's like we were two roommates waiting for a lease to expire. I shook my head. So instead of saying any of that, you went and found yourself a new lease. She was quiet again. No defense left. You want to know the worst part? I said, walking around the island, leaning on the opposite side of the counter. It's not even that you cheated. It's that you got lazy about it. You were so convinced I wasn't paying attention that you got sloppy. That's the part that pisses me off. You didn't respect me enough to cover your tracks. That's not true. Oh, save it, Theresa. You printed directions on the house printer. You had conversations with him in public. You lied to my face with all the conviction of someone ordering a pizza. She wiped a tear from her cheek. Just one. Not for me, probably for her career. You didn't have to humiliate me, she said. I didn't humiliate you, I said. You did that all by yourself. I just took the mute button off. She stood, pacing a little now. I could lose my job, Roy. They're doing damage control, trying to spin it, but the board is furious. Donors are asking questions. And what do you want from me? Sympathy. No, she said, more honest now. I want to know what happens next. There it was. The real reason she came back. Because she knew I had options now. You want the truth? I asked. She nodded. I've already talked to a lawyer, I said. Don't worry, I'm not coming after your job or your nonprofit. But I'm not going to make this clean. I'm not doing some polite, mutual separation. You broke the rules. You don't get to negotiate the exit terms. Her mouth opened. Closed. The house is in my name, I said. So you'll be staying elsewhere. Starting tomorrow. You can take whatever's yours. I boxed up the guest room. I don't have anywhere lined up yet. You should have thought of that when you were giving Darren driving directions. She sat down again, slower this time. Softer. I don't want a divorce, she said. I stared at her like she'd started speaking French. You cheated. I know. Repeatedly. I know. And publicly. Tears came this time. More than one. I messed up, she said. But this, us, was real, Roy. It still is. I know it doesn't make up for anything, but I still love you. I walked over to the drawer, pulled out the Red River roster printout, the one with her name, Darren's name, the event times, everything. I dropped it in front of her. This is what your love looks like? She didn't answer. Theresa, I was a good husband. I wasn't perfect, but I showed up. Every damn day. I paid the bills. I kissed you goodnight. I rubbed your shoulders when you didn't ask. I made stupid jokes when you were sad. And for that, I got to watch you give a standing ovation to the guy you were slept with. She choked back a sob. You want forgiveness? Fine. You got it. She looked up, stunned. I forgive you, I said. Not because you deserve it, but because I deserve to walk out of this without bitterness clawing at my ribs. She stood slowly. So that's it. Yeah, I said. That's it. No second chance? You already used it. You just didn't tell me. She stepped toward me, slowly. Is there anything I can say? Yeah, I said. Say goodbye. She stood there for a second too long, like maybe she thought I'd crack, that I'd reach out and pull her into some cathartic hug. But I didn't. I walked over, opened the front door, and waited. She picked up her bag. No words this time. Just tears and steps. And then she was gone. I shut the door behind her and turned the lock, not because I needed to, because it felt good. I walked back to the kitchen, picked up my mug of stale coffee, and took a long sip. Still bitter. 3 months. That's how long it had been since Theresa walked out of the house for the last time. Not a dramatic slamming of doors. No suitcases rolling down the steps. Just a quiet exit, a pause at the threshold like maybe she'd say something, then nothing. And then gone. Funny how fast you adjust to quiet when you've lived with tension for so long. At first, the silence felt too loud. Like it echoed. I'd wake up expecting to hear the shower running, or her phone buzzing with some notification she'd pretend not to notice. But after a week, I stopped reaching across the bed. After 2, I started sleeping straight through the night. And after a month, I took the last photo of us off the wall, not with any anger, just the way you finally toss out old batteries you keep thinking you'll use. The fallout from the Gala video didn't take long. Theresa resigned. Officially, it was to pursue other opportunities. But people talk. Word got around. Her donor base evaporated like spilled coffee on pavement. A few of her old coworkers reached out to me, not to gossip, but to say they were sorry. Not one of them seemed surprised. Darren? Last I heard, he'd gone back to his consulting firm. They scrubbed his name from the nonprofit site by Monday morning after the video. A clean digital erasure. I imagined him sitting at some sad hotel bar in khakis, explaining to a stranger how he used to do meaningful work. I didn't follow up. I didn't track Theresa on social media or ask around. I didn't need to. The last message she ever sent me was a one-line email. If you ever want to talk, I'll listen. I didn't reply, because there was nothing left to say. I spent that summer doing things I hadn't done in years. Cleaned out the garage, fixed the back fence, painted the upstairs bathroom a terrible shade of green, then repainted it because it looked like a 1970s hospital. Went fishing by myself. Drove down to visit my cousin in Kentucky and played cards with his kids. And somewhere along the way, I stopped thinking of myself as a husband. Not because I didn't still wear the emotional residue of marriage. I did. But because I finally saw how much of myself I'd put on hold to keep a relationship running that had already stalled out miles ago. You don't realize how much pretending wears you down until you stop. One Saturday in late August, I got a call from Chase, my oldest friend. The guy who always knows when something's up even if you haven't said a word. We grabbed beers at Tully's, sat in a booth near the jukebox that only played songs from before 2002. He didn't ask how I was doing. He just passed me a fresh Miller and said, "You look 10 pounds lighter." Not in weight. In life. I laughed. "You think that's a good thing?" "Hell yeah," he said. "You look like you were living in a hostage situation for the past 2 years." We drank. We talked. At one point he asked me the question I'd been dodging since June. "You miss her?" I thought about it. Not a knee-jerk reaction. Not the automatic no I'd rehearsed 100 times. "Parts of her," I said finally. He nodded. "That's fair." Because yeah, there were parts one missed. The early years, the way she used to narrate bad TV shows and funny voices, the way she made fun of me for cutting sandwiches diagonally like a kindergartner. But those parts had faded long before Darren Kelman showed up. I'd just been too stubborn or too scared to admit it. We think betrayal happens all at once, like a car crash. But the truth is, it's usually a slow leak. Little omissions. Avoided glances. Changes in tone. And one day, you realize the relationship's been running on fumes for so long, you can't even remember what a full tank felt like. And that's what stuck with me the most. It wasn't Darren. It wasn't even the cheating. It was that I'd been living in a house with someone who had already left me 100 times before she physically walked out. That kind of betrayal? That sticks deeper than anything physical. That's why my revenge didn't come with screaming matches or broken glass. I didn't need to destroy her. I just needed to show her what truth looked like, served straight and without apology. And when I did, the silence that followed said everything. Weeks passed. Then months. I started dating again, not seriously. Just coffee with women who didn't ask about my ex or try to turn every sentence into therapy. It felt good. Not exciting, not fireworks. Just clean. Honest. In November, I got a letter. Not an email. A real, handwritten letter, in the kind of handwriting I knew like my own. Theresa. It was 6 pages long. She apologized. Said she understood now why I did what I did. That she had spent too many years blaming others for her own restlessness. That Darren wasn't in her life anymore. He'd turned out to be everything I wasn't. Unreliable, self-absorbed, and disloyal. She'd lost her job, some friends, a lot of credibility. But what hurt her most, she said, was realizing she didn't just lose a marriage, she lost me. She said I didn't owe her anything. She just wanted me to know. I didn't respond. Not because I hated her. Because I didn't need to say anything. Some things are better left in the rearview mirror. A few days later, I folded up the letter, put it in a drawer, and went back to painting the guest bedroom. Sky blue this time. A fresh start. As of now, I'm good. Not amazing. Not euphoric. But honest. Whole. And sometimes, that's the best kind of happy. Because healing doesn't come from payback. It comes from clarity. From knowing you didn't bend who you were just to keep someone who didn't deserve the shape you made for them. Theresa taught me a lesson I didn't want but needed to learn. If someone keeps making you feel like you're not enough, they're probably trying to hide the fact that they aren't. So that's my story. Roy Granger, logistics guy, once married, now wiser. And the next time someone tries to lie to my face with a smile, I'll know. And they'll know I know. Because I'm done playing the quiet one. And I've got plenty left to say. The end. Still better than lies. And for the first time in a long time, I wasn't waiting for someone to come home. I was just home. Alone. And that felt like peace. Subscribe to the channel